My name is Sheila Ramirez, and I'm 28 years old. Most people would describe me as dependable, the kind of person who shows up early, remembers birthdays, and never complains when plans change. I work as an event coordinator for a boutique hotel in Austin, Texas. My job is all about managing chaos, anticipating problems before they happen, and making sure everyone else gets to enjoy the moment while I handle the details behind the scenes. I'm good at what I do. Maybe too good, because somewhere along the way, my family decided that being capable meant being available for whatever they needed, whenever they needed it. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My younger brother Marcus is getting married to his fiancée, Vanessa. They're both 25, and they've been planning this wedding for over a year. It's going to be huge. 200 guests, a vineyard venue an hour outside the city, live band, open bar, the whole production. My parents, Linda and Robert, have been over the moon about it. Marcus has always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He's charming, spontaneous, the life of every party. I'm the responsible one, the planner, the one who cleans up after the party ends. 3 months before the wedding, my mother called me on a Tuesday evening. I was finishing up a proposal for a corporate retreat when her name flashed across my phone screen. "Sheila, honey, we need to talk about the wedding," she said, her voice sweet but with that edge I'd learned to recognize over the years. "Marcus and Vanessa have been so stressed, and we want their day to be perfect." I already knew where this was going. "What do you need, Mom?" "Well, there are going to be quite a few children at the wedding. 15, to be exact. Vanessa's side of the family has a lot of little ones, and we thought it would be wonderful if someone could keep an eye on them during the ceremony and reception. You know, make sure they're entertained, keep them from running around during the vows, that sort of thing." I set down my pen. "You want me to babysit?" "Oh, don't call it that," she laughed, as if the label was the problem. "Think of it as helping out. You're so good with logistics, Sheila. You'll barely notice them. And besides, you're not in the wedding party, so you'll have plenty of time." That last sentence landed like a slap. Not in the wedding party. Marcus had chosen his college buddies as groomsmen. Vanessa had picked her sorority sisters as bridesmaids. I wasn't even asked to do a reading. And now, instead of being a guest at my own brother's wedding, I was being voluntold to wrangle 15 children ranging from toddlers to preteens for an entire day. "Mom, I'm a guest. I bought a dress. I was planning to actually enjoy the wedding." "Sheila, don't be selfish. This is Marcus's big day. Family helps family. Your father and I are paying for half of this wedding, and Vanessa's parents are overwhelmed. We just need you to step up, like you always do." Like I always do. There it was. The expectation wrapped in guilt, tied with a bow of obligation. I told her I'd think about it, but we both knew what that meant. In my family, thinking about it meant yes. 2 weeks later, I received a text from Vanessa. It wasn't a request. It was a schedule. Wedding day itinerary for kids. "Sheila, can you be at the venue by 10 a.m.? Ceremony starts at 2. Kids need lunch at noon, activities during cocktail hour, and supervision during dinner. I've put together some games and coloring books. You're a lifesaver." A lifesaver. That's what they called it when they needed something from you. I stared at that message for a long time, my jaw tightening. I hadn't agreed to this. Not officially. But somehow, it had already been decided. My Saturday, the entire wedding day, had been carved out and handed over without anyone asking if I was okay with it. I thought about saying no. I really did. But then my mother called again. "Vanessa sent you the itinerary, right? Thank you so much for doing this, sweetheart. Marcus is so relieved. You know how he worries." Marcus worries. Marcus, who hadn't called me once in 3 months. Marcus, who didn't even know I'd been handed this job until after it was already arranged. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that I had my own life, my own plans, my own right to be treated like a guest and not the hired help. But I didn't. Because that's not what dependable people do. We smile. We adjust. We make it work. So I did what I always do when I feel the walls closing in. I started planning. Not just how I'd survive the day, but how I'd make sure this never happened to me again. I spent the next 2 weeks doing what I do best, gathering information. I started with the guest list. My mother had mentioned 15 kids, but she hadn't given me names, ages, or any details about dietary restrictions or behavioral issues. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. So I did it myself. I contacted Vanessa's mother, Patricia, under the guise of wanting to make sure I had everything I needed to keep the children safe and happy. Patricia was thrilled someone was taking initiative. She sent me a spreadsheet within an hour. 15 children, ages 2 to 12. 3 had severe allergies. 2 were on ADHD medication that needed to be administered at specific times. 1 was autistic and needed a quiet space for sensory breaks. 4 were under the age of 5 and still in diapers or pull-ups. This wasn't babysitting. This was running a daycare facility without a license, without backup, and without compensation. I sat at my kitchen table staring at that spreadsheet, my coffee going cold. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Hey sis, heard you're helping with the kids. You're the best. Vanessa and I really appreciate it." No question mark. No acknowledgement that I might have my own feelings about this. Just gratitude for something I never volunteered to do. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new document. I titled it, Wedding Day Liability Assessment. I'm an event coordinator. I know how this works. Any venue hosting children requires signed waivers, proof of supervision ratios, and emergency contact information. I started drafting a list of questions. Who was responsible if a child got injured? What happens if a kid has an allergic reaction and I don't have an EpiPen? What's the plan if a toddler wanders off during cocktail hour? Then I did something else. I looked up Texas state laws regarding child supervision at private events. Turns out, if you're responsible for more than 5 unrelated children under the age of 12, you're technically operating as a child care provider. That means liability. That means insurance. That means my parents and Marcus could be held responsible if anything went wrong, and so could I. I saved everything into a folder. Then I sent an email to my mother, my father, Marcus, and Vanessa. The subject line read, Child Supervision Logistics and Liability Concerns. I kept it professional, clinical, the way I'd write to a client. I outlined the number of children, their ages, their medical needs, and the recommended adult-to-child supervision ratio according to state guidelines. For 15 children with the age range and medical requirements listed, the recommendation was at least 3 adults, preferably with CPR and first aid certification. I attached a sample waiver form I'd used at the hotel for children's events. I noted that without signed parental consent and emergency contact information, I couldn't legally be held responsible for the children's safety. I ended the email with a polite question. Could we schedule a call to discuss how we'd like to handle this? I want to make sure we're all on the same page and that the children are safe. I hit send at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and waited. The responses came in fast. My father replied first. Sheila, this seems a bit excessive. It's just a wedding. The parents will be there. My mother's response was similar, but with more emotion. Honey, I think you're overthinking this. We're family. We trust you. No one's going to sue anyone. Marcus didn't reply at all. Vanessa sent a short text instead of an email. Sheila, I didn't realize this was going to be such a big deal. We just thought you'd keep an eye on them. My mom said you were excited to help. Excited. I read that word 3 times, my fingers tightening around my phone. I hadn't used the word excited once. Not in any conversation, email, or text. That was Patricia's interpretation, filtered through Vanessa, filtered through my mother, until my silence had been turned into enthusiasm. I didn't respond to Vanessa's text. Instead, I called my mother the next morning. Mom, I need you to be honest with me. Did anyone actually ask the parents of these 15 children if they wanted a designated babysitter, or did you and Patricia just decide this on your own? There was a pause. Then she sighed. Sheila, the parents are guests too. They want to enjoy the wedding. We thought it would be a nice gesture. A nice gesture that I'm providing for free, without being asked, on a day I'm supposed to be celebrating my brother. You're being dramatic. I'm being realistic. If something happens to one of those kids, I'm the one who's going to be blamed. And I'm not going to take on that responsibility without the proper support. She didn't like that. I could hear it in the silence. My mother had always been able to guilt me into compliance with silence. But this time, I didn't fill the gap. I just waited. Finally, she spoke. What do you want, Sheila? I want to be a guest. Or, if I'm going to be working, I want to be compensated, and I want backup. Compensated? You want us to pay you to help your own brother? If I'm being hired to provide childcare, yes. She hung up on me. My father called 10 minutes later, his voice tight. Your mother is very upset. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this attitude is unacceptable. We're not paying you to be part of this family. Then I'm not babysitting, I said quietly. I'll be at the wedding as a guest, and the parents can watch their own children. He hung up too. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time when dealing with my family. I felt powerful. The silence lasted 3 days. No calls, no texts, nothing. I went to work, managed a corporate luncheon, coordinated an anniversary party, and came home to an inbox that was conspicuously empty of family drama. I assumed they'd figured it out on their own, hired someone, or asked another relative. I was fine with that. I'd set my boundary, and for once, I wasn't going to apologize for it. Then, on Sunday evening, my phone rang. It was Marcus. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hey, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Sheila, we need to talk. His tone was different. Not angry, not dismissive. He sounded tired. Can I come over? 20 minutes later, he was sitting on my couch, looking more stressed than I'd seen him in months. Vanessa wasn't with him. He ran his hands through his hair and let out a long breath. Mom and Dad are furious with you. I know. Vanessa's mom is upset too. She keeps saying you agreed to help and now you're backing out last minute. I never agreed, Marcus. I was told I was doing it. There's a difference. He nodded slowly, staring at his hands. I didn't know it was that bad. I thought you were okay with it. Did you ask me? He looked up, and for the first time, I saw something like guilt in his eyes. No. I didn't. I just assumed because that's what you do. You handle things. I handle things because no one else will. But that doesn't mean I'm obligated to handle everything, especially when I'm not even asked. Marcus leaned back, exhaling. Look, I get it. I do. But the wedding is in 6 weeks, and we don't have a backup plan. Vanessa is freaking out. Her family is talking about pulling some of the kids from the wedding entirely, which is causing a whole other nightmare. I'm not asking you to do this for free. I'll pay you. Whatever you think is fair. I studied him carefully. This was the closest Marcus had ever come to acknowledging that I wasn't just an extension of the family's needs. But I also knew that this conversation wasn't really about respecting me. It was about solving his problem. How much? I don't know. 200? 3? Marcus, professional childcare for 15 kids for an entire day, including meal supervision and medical needs, would cost at least $1,500. Minimum. His face went pale. Are you serious? Completely. And that's if I were willing to do it at all, which I'm not. Not alone, and not without proper support. He stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. Sheila, that's insane. We're already over budget. Then you need to come up with another plan, because I'm not doing it. I stood up, signaling that this conversation was over. I love you, Marcus. I'm happy you're getting married. But I'm not your employee, and I'm not your fallback solution when things get complicated. He left without another word. I watched him drive away from my apartment window, and I felt something twist in my chest. Not regret exactly, but the uncomfortable weight of standing firm when you've spent your whole life bending. The next day, I got a call from Vanessa. Her voice was clipped, professional, the way people sound when they're trying very hard not to yell. Sheila, I just want to understand what's happening. My mom said you sent some kind of legal document about the kids. It wasn't a legal document. It was a liability waiver, the same kind we use at my hotel for events with children. Right. And now my family thinks we're treating their kids like a legal risk. Do you have any idea how that looks? Vanessa, I was asked to supervise 15 children, several with medical needs, for an entire day. That is a legal risk. I was trying to protect everyone, including you and Marcus. By making this a bigger deal than it needs to be? I felt my patience thinning. If it's not a big deal, then the parents can watch their own kids. There was a pause, then her voice shifted, colder now. You know what, Sheila? I didn't want to say this, but you've been difficult this entire wedding process. You weren't available for dress shopping, you didn't come to my bridal shower, and now this. It's like you don't even care. That stopped me cold. I wasn't invited to your bridal shower. Silence. Vanessa, I didn't get an invitation. Well, it was for bridesmaids and close family. I figured your mom would tell you. My hands were shaking now, gripping the phone too tightly. So I'm not close family. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. My voice was calm, steady, even though my heart was pounding. Let me be very clear, Vanessa. I will be at the wedding as a guest. I will celebrate my brother. But I will not be babysitting your family's children, and I will not be apologizing for setting a boundary. If that makes me difficult, then I'm fine being difficult. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were still shaking. I sat down on my couch and stared at the ceiling, letting the adrenaline drain out of me. This wasn't how I wanted things to go. But I also wasn't going to let myself be erased, dismissed, and then blamed for not smiling through it. 2 days later, my mother called. Her voice was ice. I hope you're happy, Sheila. Vanessa is in tears. Marcus is furious. And now we have to scramble to figure out what to do with all these children because you decided to be selfish. I'm not being selfish, Mom. I'm being reasonable. You're ruining your brother's wedding. No, I said quietly. I'm just refusing to fix a problem that was never mine to begin with. She hung up. And this time, I knew the silence wouldn't end until the wedding day itself. The weeks leading up to the wedding were strange. My family group chat, which used to buzz constantly with updates and photos, went silent. At least for me. I could see the read receipts piling up, but no one responded when I sent a message asking about the rehearsal dinner time. My cousin Emily finally texted me privately. Hey, just so you know, your mom's been telling everyone you bailed on helping with the wedding. People are taking sides. Taking sides. Like I'd committed some unforgivable betrayal by refusing to work for free. I thanked Emily for the heads up and decided I wasn't going to defend myself. Anyone who knew me would understand. Anyone who didn't wasn't worth the energy. A week before the wedding, I received an email from Patricia, Vanessa's mother. The subject line read, "Final wedding details." I opened it cautiously. Inside was a revised schedule. There was a note at the bottom. We've hired 2 professional childcare providers to supervise the children during the ceremony and reception. They will be stationed in the bridal suite during cocktail hour and in a separate area during dinner. Each provider is CPR certified and has liability insurance. Thank you for bringing these concerns to our attention. I read it twice. No apology, no acknowledgement that I'd been right. Just a sterile confirmation that they'd done what I'd suggested from the beginning. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. The day before the wedding, I drove out to the vineyard for the rehearsal. I wasn't in the wedding party, so I wasn't technically required to be there, but I wanted to see Marcus. When I arrived, the tension was immediate. My mother saw me walk in and turned away, busying herself with centerpiece arrangements. My father nodded but didn't approach. Vanessa was near the arbor with her bridesmaids, laughing about something. She saw me and her smile faded just slightly before she recovered. Marcus was the one who walked over. He looked exhausted. Hey. Glad you made it. Of course I made it. I'm still your sister. He nodded, shoving his hands in his pockets. Look, about all this. I'm sorry. I should have handled it better from the start. It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate that. For what it's worth, Vanessa's mom said the childcare people are costing us almost $2,000 for the day. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't need to. He already knew. That evening, after the rehearsal, there was a dinner at a nearby restaurant. I sat at the far end of the table, between Emily and Marcus's best friend, Derek, who I barely knew. My parents sat at the opposite end with Vanessa's family. No one made a toast that included me. No one asked how my work was going or mentioned anything about my life. I was there, but I was invisible. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself to the restroom. When I came back, I overheard my mother talking to Patricia in the hallway. I just don't understand where this attitude came from. She used to be so helpful. Now she's acting like we asked her to donate a kidney. Patricia's voice was sympathetic. Some people just can't handle not being the center of attention. I stopped walking. Center of attention. I'd asked to be left alone, to be treated like a guest, and somehow that had been twisted into me wanting a spotlight. I didn't confront them. I just walked past, grabbed my purse, and told Marcus I wasn't feeling well. He hugged me and told me to feel better. I left the restaurant, got in my car, and sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. I wasn't angry anymore. I was something else. I was done. Done trying to prove my worth to people who had already decided I was the problem. Done shrinking myself to make their lives easier. The wedding was tomorrow, and I would show up, smile, and celebrate my brother. But after that, I was going to reevaluate every single relationship that made me feel like this. I drove home, took a long shower, and laid out my dress for the next day. It was a deep emerald green, elegant and expensive. I'd bought it months ago, back when I thought I'd actually enjoy this wedding. Now it felt like armor. Tomorrow, I would wear it, hold my head high, and let them see exactly who I was. Not the family doormat. Not the backup plan. Just Sheila. And that was going to be enough. The wedding day arrived with clear skies and perfect weather. I got ready alone in my apartment, taking my time with my hair and makeup. When I arrived at the vineyard, the parking lot was already full. I could see the 2 childcare providers near the entrance, wearing matching polo shirts with a company logo, clipboards in hand. Parents were checking in their children, signing forms, exactly the way it should have been from the start. I walked past them toward the ceremony space. My mother saw me and gave a tight smile, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes. My father nodded. Vanessa's family ignored me completely. I found a seat toward the back, far from the family section, and waited. The ceremony was beautiful. Marcus cried when Vanessa walked down the aisle. I cried too, not because of the drama, but because despite everything, I loved my brother. When they said their vows, I clapped along with everyone else. For those 30 minutes, none of the tension mattered. During cocktail hour, I stood alone near the bar, sipping champagne. The children were nowhere to be seen, happily occupied in their designated area. Parents mingled freely, laughing and relaxed. Everything was running smoothly, exactly as I predicted it would with proper planning. No one thanked me for pushing the issue. No one even mentioned it. Dinner was the same. I sat at a table with distant cousins who barely knew me. My parents gave a toast about Marcus and Vanessa's love story. Marcus thanked everyone for coming. Vanessa thanked her bridesmaids and both sets of parents. My name never came up. I wasn't surprised. When the dancing started, I stayed for one song, then quietly gathered my things. No one noticed me leave. I drove home as the sun set, the hills glowing gold in the distance. Back in my apartment, I kicked off my heels and hung up my dress. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. My phone buzzed once. A text from Emily. "You okay? Saw you leave early." I smiled and typed back. "I'm perfect." And I was. Not because the day went well, but because I finally understood something. Being dependable doesn't mean being available for everything. Being family doesn't mean accepting disrespect. I'd spent years bending, and it never made them appreciate me more. It just taught them I'd always bend. I set boundaries, and they hated me for it. But I could live with that. What I couldn't live with was disappearing into their expectations. System corrected. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.